Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Movie Dudes. I am Alec,
And I'm Phil.
and today we'll be discussing the 2016, I believe it's Naoko Yamada film, A Silent Voice, which was adapted from a manga by Yoshitoki Oima that I have right here as well.
Mm-hmm.
And
this is going to make a very interesting conversation, considering that you have read the entire manga and I haven't read a single page.
yes, and I would also like to, drum up some hype for later in the episode, but just earlier today, I skimmed through the entire manga again and wrote down every notable change between manga and movie that I could find.
Yeah.
So this episode will also serve as just kind of because I noticed while I was doing research for this episode, I noticed that not a lot of places wrote down cataloged, I guess, all those differences. So I guess this episode kind of serves as that as well. Just a place to see all the different changes that went on during the adaptation of the manga. But
Awesome.
This is Movie Dude, so first we'll discuss the movie.
Yep. Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
Do we want to get into a summary first?
Yeah, I guess so.
So, Silent Voice is a film about two major characters. One is named Shoya, and the other is named Shoko. Shoko is a deaf girl that Shoya bullies in middle school, and we get that kind of we get that, the whole scene of that. It's about 20 minutes of the movie. You get like a summary of those events. Skip forward in time about 6 years. Shoya is regretful of what he did and decides that he wants to take his own life. So he gathers all the money that he owes his mom. He basically just sells all of his stuff and decides to go end his life. But before he does that, he wants to go and try and make amends with Shoko. So he does that, and in making amends with Shoko, he finds that he wants to get a new lease on life, pretty much, and become friends with her. So, they begin hanging out. Shoya begins making other friends around him. Like there's Nagatsuka, who he helps save from a bit of a theft situation where someone tries to steal his bike, but Shoya just is like, hey, steal my bike instead. He meets let's see, who else? He meets Yuzuru, who is Shoko's younger sister. There's another boy. His name is he's kind of hard to remember because he's not really given a whole lot of life in the movie. I wrote his name down in my notebook, in my notepad. Hold on.
Yeah, I barely remembered any names from this film.
Satoshi. His name is Satoshi.
Yeah.
He meets Satoshi and even two characters from the middle school portion of the movie where the bullying takes place, Naoka and Kawai. And this little makeshift friend group decides to go and, just hang out and actually start acting like friends, which gives Shoya a bit of a shell shock because he's not really used to this new friend situation, I guess. And so he gets kind of used to this until his past bullying of Shoko is brought up again, and everyone who didn't know about it, basically, or everyone who didn't know about it and everyone who knew about it kind of is just kind of starts acting weirdly towards Shoya, which causes him in the middle of the film to kind of blow up at everybody and ruin the friendships that he's cultivated.
Yep.
This entire time he's been growing closer to Shoko and her sister, and even their mom, who resented him for the bullying of Shoko back in the day. So, those four start hanging out. Then, we're brought to a fireworks ceremony where basically Shoya and Shoko spend some time together, and then Shoko decides she wants to go home early to go and study. I think she just says. Yuzuru tells Shoya to go after her and get her camera from the apartment. Upon entering, Shoya discovers that Shoko is standing on the balcony of the apartment, wanting to, jump off into the river below. So Shoya runs over, saves Shoko, but in that moment accidentally slips himself into the river, landing him in the hospital unconscious for a little while. Shoko decides to resalvage those friendships that were messed up from Shoya's, blow up. Then they all, kind of get back together once Shoya's out of the hospital, and Shoya learns to kind of, take life in a new kind of way and see and look everybody in the eyes and basically face the truth of the world that he blinded himself to after bullying Shoko. Mm-hmm. And so that was a very, very bare bones description of the main structure of the plot. But I guess we will just get into our thoughts now.
Yeah. Also, I'm gonna say this right now. I'm pretty sure that in this episode you're gonna do most of the talking, because one you've got the manga thing, but two, I didn't really write that many notes. I don't really have that much to say about it. It's a film that I lived more than I analyzed.
Oh, for sure.
So. Most of the things I have to say is it's good.
Yeah.
Why is it good? I don't know. It's good. I just liked it.
Yeah. I would say it's okay. Yeah, I didn't. In terms of the movie, I didn't write down too many notes at all. Mm-hmm. So, mainly the thing that I wanted to talk about more than anything is the way that silent voice, I guess, affects me on every viewing. Because I've seen this movie about 3 times now, and I have not gone a single viewing without being extremely, in an emotional state at the end of the film.
Of course,
and
yeah.
There's no other movie at the moment that does that for me consistently. So, I don't know, there's just so much to be said about how... beautiful and realistic and poignant the story that Silent Voice tells is. It's just so incredible.
Well, that's one of my few things that I wrote that I want to talk about, which is I want to talk about how this film makes you feel emotions, but not only this film, but just anime in general, because that's something that I noticed. Anime has a way of making you feel things that Western movies don't have, and I don't know how to explain it.
It's kind of true. I'm not exactly sure what it is. I think it could just be a different way of storytelling that does that.
Maybe.
But at the same time, it's it really is that, because I could name off I don't know, 5 stories that have emotionally affected me in a very deep way, but only 2 of them might be Western in origin, and that
you wanna,
I could hold on, I gotta look back at my shelf to remind myself of what I'm actually trying to say here. I would say off the top of my head 5 stories that have impacted the way, like impacted me in the deeply emotional way would be Royal Tenenbaums, Marriage Story, Steins Gate, A Silent Voice, and there's one more. I know for a fact that there's one more that I'm just not thinking of right. Evangelion, that's the other one.
Oh, right.
But yeah, those 5 stories have all, or I guess if you wanted to add a 6th one, then just Persona 5 Royal.
Right.
But all 6 of those stories have had me in a moment where I'm like, God, I feel a lot right now from this story, and obviously there's more examples than that I'm forgetting at the moment, but it says a lot to, I guess, the way that anime stories are told, that those stories in particular, that out of those stories in particular, 4 of them are from Japan. It's pretty crazy. I think there definitely is something to that, and I'm sure with a lot more analysis, I guess you could probably break down a specific reason.
I don't know. Well, I mean, in terms of animation, when it comes to emotions, anime is almost the only thing that makes you feel that such a range of emotions. I mean, obviously you've got like Pixar, which is also pretty fucking good at that.
Oh, of course, yeah.
But besides that, because that's, if we're gonna talk about anime, we kind of have to talk about the eternal debate of anime versus cartoon. And in my opinion, anime will always win, and for one reason, which is if you're an adult and you want a cartoon that is going to talk to you about serious adult things, it's pretty hard to find, because the shows you find are either kind of stupid comedy adult shows like Family Guy, South Park, The Simpsons, etc., or you're going to find some more cartoons for kids, but that can be extremely well written, such as Gravity Falls, and I can't think of anything else right now, but Gravity Falls is really good.
Yeah. No, see, like, you always will find those diamonds in the rough, and it's not really to say that, I guess, all anime is, like, really good at conveying a serious story, but a lot of them are when they really get into it. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of anime that I love that I think are really good at telling like a semi-serious narrative, that have moments where I'm like, God, if anybody who wasn't into anime watched this, I don't think that they would take this seriously at all. Like,
yeah, I get that.
Like, there are certain parts of Steins Gate where I'm like, I find that kind of funny, but I don't know if like a regular like viewer of things would.
Oh, absolutely.
Or like slice of life stuff like K-On!
Yeah. Now slice of life can be kind of for a Western audience, I think it can be kind of difficult to get into, but once you find the right shows, it can very easily become your favorite genre of anime.
Oh,
like,
for
it's
sure.
the case for me.
Yeah, no, I feel that way exactly, and you are right about, and there is like, I guess, one other aspect of anime that makes it like a bit more superior, at least to me, is I love the expressiveness of the animation, because obviously you get like goofy expressiveness that's taken to like a whole new level in anime, but there's also like, I don't know, serious expressiveness, like bringing it back to Silent Voice. There are so many moments where you can just feel everything in just the way that like a character reacts to something, like you would feel in a movie with like the greatest actors.
Yeah.
And the animation of Silent Voice isn't to be brought down either, because it's done by Kyoto Animations, the same people who did like Violent Evergarden and stuff like that.
Well, all right. Can we talk about Okay, can we have a tangent about Kyoto Animation? Because that
Of
was
course.
one of the things that I wanted to talk about. All right, to anyone who isn't really that into anime and who isn't at the point where they can name the different studios, Kyoto Animation is my favorite anime studio by far, for many reasons. But if I look at my anime list, a lot of my favorite anime are going to be from Kyoto Animation, such as obviously A Silent Voice, but there's also Clannad, which is probably my favorite anime of all time. Which again, in terms of showing emotion and making you feel things, is it's amazing because it's a famously sad show.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. I mean, I remember in one episode, I told you that my favorite anime was Clannad, and you were like, "Oh, but it's so sad," and yeah, it absolutely is.
See, that's the thing, is that I've not even watched Clannad yet,
Mm-hmm.
but I just know because like
Mm-hmm.
if you're in the anime community for even like a year, and you're like in the right circles, you're gonna hear about Clannad, and you're
Yeah.
gonna hear about people's experiences with Clannad.
It's
And
well,
I
yeah.
don't even know what it's about. I don't even know any of the characters, but I just know that it's really
Yeah.
sad.
But for Kyoto Animation, what I think is also really great is not only do you have those extremely emotional shows, but you also have shows that are just as good, but also are just kind of like don't really make you feel like they're not as sad as those shows. Like as you mentioned, there's K-On!, which is the
Yeah.
most like the most just get in bed and just have a good time watching these cute anime girls doing cute anime things.
It's just goofy and fun.
Yeah, there's also, I don't know if you've seen the show. It's a show called Nichijou.
It's on my list. Is that Kyoto as well?
It's Kyoto. Pretty sure. Well, hold on.
Because I'm about
Yep.
to say, oh my god,
It's,
that's
Kyoani
amazing
as well. Yeah, which is if you were to compare Silent Voice and Clannad to Nichijou, they're just
Oh
two
my
very
God.
different types of anime, whether it's in terms of animation or the kind of shows that they are. Nichijou is the funniest anime I've ever seen. It's more like kind of a skit show where you've got different,
Yeah.
well, just different scenes going on in each episode, and it's the kind of comedy that's like pretty absurd in the sense that like it keeps going further and further, and then when you're at the point where most shows would stop, Nichijou doesn't stop, and it just goes fucking so much further than that. And honestly, it's not even the show that I'd say you have to watch from episode 1 to the last episode. You can just watch a bunch of funny moments of the show on YouTube, and that's kind of all you need. That's how I first watched the show, and that's how I fell in love with it.
Yeah. So yeah, Kyoto just is so dynamic in what they choose to do, but with such beautiful animation every time. Like even with K-On!, where you don't really need that like amazing level of animation.
You don't need it, but it's still there.
It's still there, and it's still
Yeah.
really good.
Mm-hmm.
So like when it comes to Silent Voice, you read the manga and you get this like really neat, like just it's kind of simple in nature, but there's a lot of like little complexities here and there, kind of art style. But when it's translated to the movie, and this is one of my favorite things about the movie over the manga, is you get this colorful, like,
Right.
just colorful world that is animated so perfectly, and it's so pretty. I bought the movie on Blu-ray just so I could watch it in like constant high quality, because like
Yeah.
sometimes when I watch Netflix, there's kind of moments where it goes down.
Netflix in general just
Yeah,
has a very bad. It's known for having a very bad bit rate, and
Yeah.
it sells you 1080p, but it's not actually 1080p. It's actually less than that.
it's pretty shaky. Yeah, but watching Silent Voice on my Blu-ray player like on my TV was so, oh my god,
Yeah.
it's just I love this movie so much. It's so
that's
pretty.
that's a film that I'd like to watch in theaters.
Oh my god, that'd be so good.
It would be awesome.
But yeah, so yeah, the animation's incredible. I also really like the voice acting in both camps, actually.
Right.
Because while the sub is, definitively better, I think, the dub has some pretty shining moments as well.
I've never heard it, so...
I would say the main thing about the dub that I really enjoy is Shoko is actually voiced by a deaf girl in the English dub.
Oh,
And,
really?
Yeah, and it brings a bit more authenticity to her character. Not in many ways that's like immediately obvious, but like I guess, comparing the two you can kind of tell. But it is really good other than that too, because like most of the voices just fit. Like
Right.
you watch some dubs and it's like you either like the voices and you don't. During the silent voice dub, there was never a moment where I was like, oh, that was stupid. No,
Right.
it's usually really good. But I will say one thing about the sub that is exponentially better is they're way better at, I guess, just a more intense emotional experience, because the sub actors just give it their all in some scenes.
Well, yeah, no, that's what's so great about... Another thing that's so great about anime is the voice actors are always so on point. They're always at the top of their game.
Yeah. Sometimes, I will say, sometimes you get, like, really out of left field, like, English performances that are, like, hard to even best by the sub standards.
Right.
Like, oh crap, what's his name?
Matt Mercer?
No, not Matt Mercer, but he's good too.
All right. Matt Mercer's my favorite, so that's why I said
Yeah. I can't remember his name, but
it.
whoever the guy who voices Spike Spiegel in the Cowboy Bebop dub is,
hold on.
he does a great job. And once you bring up his... Steve Blum, that's it.
Steve Blum, yes.
Yes, Steve Blum knocks it out of the park in that show. Pretty much everybody does in Cowboy Bebop. But, like, I would say, like, in a more recent moment, in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 5, the voice actor for the main villain is incredible. It's Kellen Goff. He did voice work for Five Nights at Freddy's, funny enough. But he plays the main villain in that season, and he is terrifying. Like, it is so
Awesome.
good. And like, JoJo dubs are usually pretty, like, they waver from, like, decent to, like, pretty alright. But, like, at this moment, I was like, God, that's amazing. But yeah, that was really good. I mean, most Persona dubs are much better than the subs. That's
Persona
just my...
5... Yeah, Persona 5 has an amazing dub.
You just... It's the one time that I don't think I'll ever want to experience anything a different way than it was made in English.
Well, I personally played the game on in Japanese, because that's just I don't exactly remember why, but I felt like playing it in Japanese. But the voice actors are really good for Persona 5.
Oh yeah, both sub and dub is really good voice actors. Yeah. But yeah, that's like one of the only times that like 100% of the time I will definitely choose like dub options.
Yeah.
So
just last thing about Persona 5. I don't know if you knew this, but the guy who plays the main character in Persona 5 also plays the announcer in Super Smash.
Yeah, Xander Mobius.
Xander Mobius, yeah.
Yeah, so I was very happy about it. I was like, what?
It's so funny how they're both like so different. They're two very, very different voices. But they're... Yeah, I've got this joke with my brother of like, wouldn't it be funny if they made an Easter egg where like 1 in 100 times when you select Joker as your character in Smash, the announcer just says, me!
Me!
That'd be funny. It's like, it's a joke that they never put it because no one would understand, but it would be so funny.
there's it's funny that you bring that up, like shared voice actors, because actually,
Hmm.
bringing it back to silent voice, a couple of the dub actors are main characters in Persona 5 as well.
Really? Like who?
The main character Shoya
Hmm.
in the English dub is voiced by Robbie Daymond, who plays Akechi in Persona 5.
Huh.
And the person who plays I'm forgetting his name again. The orange haired boy. I don't remember
Right.
his. Hang on.
Basic dude.
Satoshi. The guy who plays Satoshi is Ryuji, Max Middleman.
Oh.
So
Yeah, I see
I was so yeah, I was very it was really funny because I remember watching the movie. I watched it dubbed for the first time with some friends of mine, and I was like, "Hang on a minute, there's no way." And I looked up the dub cast. I was like, "Oh my god."
Yeah, I mean, sometimes people automatically assume that since it's dubbed, it's not gonna be as good,
Of course,
and
yeah.
that's something that people are gonna stop doing because
Oh
a lot of
yeah.
times, sometimes they obviously can be right, but if you look, especially at what Funimation is doing, like Funimation are killing it in terms of in terms of dubs, like. Dubs for anime they've never been better than right now because
Oh
now
yeah.
people are taking it seriously and people are genuinely enjoying it and they want to do something that's good.
Yeah, because now it's an actual like international, uh, like powerhouse of an industry. Before it was just
Yeah.
dubs were being made out of either contract licenses or out of like just niche passion.
Yeah. I mean,
But yeah,
yeah, a few months ago I watched a video with my brothers that was like comparing the different dubs for One Piece.
oh
It
yeah, I've
was
seen that
yeah,
one.
where it was like the Funimation dub, the the Four Kids dub, which is known for being
Oh
very
yeah.
bad.
Oh
I
my
think it was
god.
also the Japanese dub and another dub that was for like I don't know why they made it, but it was just another dub that like no one knows about, which is somehow worse. That one's somehow worse than the Four Kids dub.
Have
I
you
don't know how
ever
they did it, but it's so bad.
have you ever heard of the Dragon Ball Z Big Green dub?
I well, I know that Dragon Ball Z has a lot of different dubs, so
Yeah,
maybe I know about this one. I'm not
but
sure.
this is my personal favorite out of like
Uh huh.
all the bad dubs of anime because it's
Okay.
just incredible because it has so many moments. I believe it gets its name from the fact that they call Piccolo Big Green in a lot of the scenes.
Oh yeah.
But there's one specific moment that I love with all of my heart where uh, I believe uh, I believe Raditz says he goes you don't scare me, and then it cuts back to Frieza and he like has like a some energy coming out of his hand. He goes nah, and then shoots a big beam of energy, and then Raditz is like whoa. It's so awful but so funny. You could look up Big Green dub moments on YouTube because
I'm gonna have to do that,
it's incredible. But yeah,
dude. Yeah.
but yes. So I guess to go back to silent voice for a minute, um, I guess that's kind of really all I had to say regarding the movie itself. I think it's
Right.
just all in all extremely beautiful. I don't really think there's anything that I could really criticize about the movie.
Yeah. Well, I've got a few things
Oh yeah, sure, go ahead.
to say. First thing is, I gotta talk about the first scene of the film
Mm-hmm.
because when it comes to making the first scene of a film, that's something that's very important, both the first and last scene. Because one, you have to make it so that the person watching the film is gonna want to watch more, gonna make the viewer interested in the film, so they don't just leave after 1 minute. And then there's obviously the last scene, so that when after you're done watching the movie, you end up having a good experience in the end. But so the first scene of the film is a scene that shows the main character, quitting his job, selling all of his stuff, and preparing for his suicide, and then trying to throw himself off a bridge, and then ending up not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a scene that is it's 1 minute long. In 1 minute, it makes you understand everything, and it's in terms, especially in terms of editing, and in terms of well, I guess writing, it's in my opinion one of the best first scenes I've ever seen for a film.
I would have to agree.
It's amazing.
I think it's like in that minute right there, you get such a yeah, like you said, you get every bit of information that you need to know moving into the main plot. And
Yeah.
I remember as soon as I saw that first scene, I was like, "Oh boy, this is gonna be something, isn't it?" So, um, yeah, and uh, I guess that's another thing that I guess I forgot to mention is uh, soundtrack is incredible.
Yeah.
Like the score of the film is incredible because it's this quiet piano for most of it that like you it's mainly like kind of masked by other things, but during specific moments you can hear the piano thunking, you can hear slight distortion. You just get this, I don't know how else really to describe it other than like it makes me feel out of all things like the actual emotions of everything going on.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just, I don't know what it is about it. It's just maybe the raw nature of just how it's produced is so uh, in line with how I feel about the movie.
Right.
And there's also the last scene,
Yeah.
and I guess really all I would have to say about it is that I think it's the most beautiful scene in the movie.
Probably.
Because I just remember this doesn't happen often, and when it does for me, I get just such a rush because it's like a moment in a movie where everything comes together perfectly. Right there at the school festival when Shoya is, he uncovers his ears and starts to finally see people for who they are, like actually looks at their faces and the X's start falling off in mass and he looks around and then the movie just ends is
Right.
incredible.
Mm-hmm.
I think it might just be like it's up there with some of my favorite scenes from anything ever.
Yeah. It really is something special.
But yeah,
So
that's really
I don't
about
know if
all I
you've
had
gone.
to say.
All
But
right. Yeah. Well, that's pretty much all for me as well.
okay, then would you want to get into the manga discussion?
Yeah.
All right, so here we go. So, uh, about I would say a week or a couple weeks before recording this episode, I read through the entirety of the Silent Voice manga. Obviously, it's on my little windowsill over there. But earlier today, I went through and I wrote every notable difference that I noticed while skimming through the series. So let's just go volume by volume. Volume 1 is it covers the entire bullying section of the movie, which is just just that whole section, and ends with Shoya and Shoko meeting up for the first time since middle school. And it's mostly similar, but offers a much more like layered presentation of the bullying rather than it mostly being one dimensional, but towards Shoya doing all of it. We get to kind of see everyone else going at it. And it allows us to see more insight into I guess just Shoya's mindset. And he I this was a part of it that I wanted to get like another summary from because I was having trouble summarizing this part on my own, so I got it from a website called All the Anime, and it's just a summary of his basic kind of outlook on life that we don't get at all in the movie. Is it the manga suggests that Shoya is kind of influenced by his big sister, who's never really properly seen, whose life attitude is, life is a war against boredom. For Shoya, it shapes his search for diversions like jumping off bridges and making just trouble and being a daredevil. His whole thing before Shoko enters the story is that he wants to destroy boredom. He wants to, for as long as he can, never be bored. And this kind of morphs into picking on the deaf girl for him. So going into some more perception changes, we get to see more of Shoya actually thinking about Shoko, because in his head, he sees her as a bit of an alien, like both like literally in his mind and figuratively. It kind of shows that Shoya just didn't like outright hate her for no reason. He just doesn't, she can't talk, like communicate like other people can, so he never fundamentally understood her, which is part of the reason why he starts to bully her. He later compares, bullying to the same reason that he jumps off bridges, saying that he believes that this is what she is for. And I would say we get a couple more scenes of Shoko like doing nice things for Shoya without him knowing it. Like there's obviously like the desk washing scene that's in the actual movie, but there's also stuff like Shoya's shoes get stolen by his former friends Keisuke and I can't remember the other kid's name. Whatever. So his shoes get stolen by them. There's multiple scenes, or there's about one or two scenes where it's shown that Shoko actually fishes them out of the trash and puts them back into Shoya's cubby. And then obviously there's the scene where they blow up at each other and fight, which causes Shoko to be transferred away. And there's also a bit more of an arc for Shoya's homeroom teacher, oddly enough. Which continues through the length of the manga. At first, he seems like more responsible, like he is in the movie, lecturing Shoya about his attitude. Later, though, he doesn't bother like keeping any kind of like facade in place. He mutters to Shoya at one point while the bullying is like fully underway. He says, "I do understand how you feel, though." And we actually do hear him from a little later, so we'll get to that. Final thing I wanted to mention is the evolution of Shoya's loneliness in this one, or in the manga, because we get to Shoya coming into, I guess it'd be middle school, and near the end of middle school, is when he starts to resent people, and like the X's start forming over people's faces in his brain. He basically, we see a much more internal, I guess, form and evolution of this loneliness. We see him push everyone away, and he eventually comes to the conclusion that he'll die alone in the life that he's living, so he decides he'd rather kill himself. We see much more. We actually get a couple panels, and I'll put them up on screen, where Shoya begins to see his life as it would play out. Like he sees himself getting older, he sees himself at his mom's funeral, and he basically just sees him dying alone on a pile of trash. And so that's when he decides to kill himself and goes through that whole process, which is where we end the volume. Honestly, Volume 2 is pretty much more of the same. We actually get, it's mostly the same for kind of one-to-one of the movie. There's just a couple of details I guess I'd like to mention. Shoko is, oddly enough, the volume begins with a little intro from Shoko's perspective, which is a little strange considering we don't really ever get that again. Let me grab the volume so I can remember what she actually said. So, 1 second. She says, she starts it off by saying, "This is Shoya Ishida. I hate him. He's here to ask for forgiveness for what he did a long time ago. Here's hoping that things will turn out conveniently for him." Which I thought was weird a little bit. Like, I don't know. It's a little strange to me, and I think this might just be another case of the author, like, implementing something that they didn't want to, I guess, continue with throughout the story.
Maybe.
So, since manga is written on a, week by week basis for most manga authors, not that I'm saying that I don't think Silent Voice was planned out, because I do think it was. I just think this was probably a narrative device that she decided to scrap much later on.
Right.
But moving on, the introduction, or I guess the reintroduction of Shoya and Shoko is kind of different here, because what ends up happening is Shoya, obviously meets Shoko at the sign language class.
Mm-hmm.
Shoko runs away like normal, and Shoya chases her. He ends up tripping in front of her, which prompts Shoko to help him up while writing the word Y into his palm, which, makes him reveal that he can sign language, so they start talking like that. And Shoya actually has a much longer apology, which I could read out fully, but it basically kind of boils down to, like, I came here for myself, and there's something I wish that, we could have heard each other's voices. He's like, in the 17 years I've been alive, I've never once been a good person. Back then, we could only communicate by hurting each other. When I think about back then, I get so frustrated, and what pisses me off is I haven't changed one bit since. But I want to try and understand your voice. Could you and me be friends? Which is much longer than what he says in the movie.
This makes the title A Silent Voice kind of, like, better, in my opinion.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, there is a few moments where he, like, it's specifically said, like, you couldn't understand her voice, or I guess the theming of, him, or the theming of, like, a voice or someone's voice being important to their person is much more prevalent in the manga than it is the movie. And this part's really interesting to me, because I didn't think this was going to be... I was very surprised by this moment. But when Shoko and Shoya are feeding the ducks with the bread in the first scene that they, appear back with each other, Shoko's mom shows up. And picks up Shoko's notebook that Shoya gave back and throws it into the river, which causes Shoko to go after it, and Shoya goes after it as well. After they both, resurface and come back up to the bridge, Shoya says that, he's sorry about what he did to Shoko all those years ago, and gets slapped in the face. Let's see, we get some, flashback scenes of Yuzuru, Shoko's sister, getting bullied alongside Shoko. We get a scene of Shoko getting mad at Yuzuru because she's the one who took the picture that got, Shoya suspended near the beginning of the movie. Mm-hmm. And the last thing, and this is actually what the volume ends on, Yuzuru and Shoya in the rain scene, like, is totally different. Like, when Shoya's walking her back home, Shoko's mom shows up at the salon, actually, while Yuzuru is staying the night there, saying that Shoko is missing. Shoko went out to look for Yuzuru, and they find her, and, they all make up and go home and everything. So it's different sequencing, but it ends up at the same place. Now, Volume 3 kind of structures itself in the about 15-minute period of the movie where we meet up again with old classmates like Miyoko and Naoka. And there's a couple major things here. Yeah, there's a couple major things I want to mention here. Like, there is, throughout the entirety of the rest of the manga, actually, there is a pretty substantial subplot where Nagatsuka wants to make a short film with all of his friends to enter in a movie competition.
Okay.
And he asks Shoya if he wants to help with them. Shoya declines at that moment, but this comes back. Naoka is much more direct in her approach of getting Shoya to come to the cat cafe where she works. And, you know, afterwards, obviously, she hands him that pouch that he later gives to Shoko. But he finds a note in the pouch from Naoka that says, "I've always liked you," which gives a bit more development towards Naoka in this part of the story, and especially later when she's in the hospital with him. It shows kind of that Naoka kind of has a thing for Shoya.
Okay.
But it's never really explored because obviously Shoya doesn't like Naoka at all. So that's kind of the whole thing for that.
Okay.
And this part's not really a difference, just kind of a Japanese language thing that was elaborated on in the manga, which I thought was extremely clever. So there's the scene where Shoko decides, it's near the end of this volume, but it's at a certain point in the movie where Shoko decides that she wants to confess to Shoya that she likes him.
Oh, right, yeah.
But she decides to do this not through sign language, but she decides to talk to him. In the English version, she says, "I love you," but Shoya misunderstands and hears it as the moon, which is kind of plausible. It's
weird.
It's a weird moment, but thinking about it in the Japanese language makes so much more sense.
It's a lot closer, yeah.
Yeah, because the word for "I love you" is "suki," and the word for moon in Japanese is "tsuki." Like, you pronounce it with a T at the beginning, and it's so close. So when I read that, I was like, "Oh my god, that's incredible!" There's even a really funny extra scene where Yuzuru teases Shoko by she's like, "All right, I'll help you start speaking better," and so they're sitting together, and she says a bunch of words that are similar to "I love you," but she goes, she says like the word for moon, and then she says the word for "I love you," and Shoko looks at her and then just hides her head in shame because she realizes what she did. Yeah. So I loved that part. All right, moving on to Volume 4, which kind of starts at the amusement park scene. Nagatsuka gets everybody gets everybody in the group on board with the movie plan. And after seeing, his old friend and bully Keisuke at the vending station at the amusement park, Shoya's kind of shaken up. And after Satoshi says that he'd like the story to be a revenge drama where a guy beats up his former bullies, Nagatsuka asks what would happen after that to the main character, and Shoya replies that the main character would want to die. And referring to himself in kind of a backwards way. Everyone's visibly shaken, but Nagatsuka's like, "Oh yeah, that kind of sounds like a decent idea." And after that is where we get the lead into where Naoka asks Shoya if she hates her, which he says probably, which is one of my favorite lines in the entire movie. Let's see. After the Ferris wheel incident, Shoko writes Naoka a letter, which we'll get to later. So next is the biggest difference in this volume, and that is with how the death of Shoko and Yuzuru's grandma is handled. Because in the movie it's very quick. It's very she's dead, moving on. But we spend about half of a volume on this.
Can I just talk about
Yeah.
like her death in the film is so it's almost mean because it's like you spend one scene with her where she just seems so sweet and so nice,
yeah.
and then the scene right after that she's dead.
Yeah. Not to say, obviously, that the manga has much development for her either, but
Right.
we do get a little more insight about how like she thought about things. So, um, on the day of the funeral, Yuzuru and Shoya meet up, obviously, and they decide to go to lunch. Yuzuru's showing Shoya some pictures of, because it's revealed later, Yuzuru takes pictures of dead things. So Shoko doesn't want to die, so she can see like what dead things actually look like.
Mm-hmm.
But this part is so bad, or it's really like great in the story, but I understand why it was cut from the movie because it is really kind of messed up. So there is a scene where she's showing him these pictures, and it's like, it's dead bugs, dead birds, whatever. But in the middle of those pictures is a scene, or is a shot of her grandma seemingly asleep. Which she basically clarifies that, like, oh yeah, mom got really mad when I took that picture, so I won't take any more pictures like that. And that part breaks my heart.
Right.
Because that means that she, woke up and discovered that her grandma was dead and decided to take a picture of it because she just didn't know what else to do.
Mm-hmm.
Which is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But after the funeral, and this is the most interesting part, after the funeral, Shoya sticks around the funeral home. Yuzuru comes out, and they find a note in her school uniform from her grandma, seemingly written just before she died. And it provides a lot more insight into, Shoko and Yuzuru's mom as a character, and shows a parallel between Yuzuru and her mom in the way of, like, I guess, how they're both really stubborn people. Especially in this part of the story, it hits so much harder because they're both people that are very stuck in, or they're both people who are very stuck in their ways, but they aren't very happy with each other at this moment. So it's kind of interesting to see, I guess, their parallel during this part. But yeah, the entire letter is extremely sweet, and I would love, I guess, just if you're curious, look it up. I'm sure someone's typed it up out there, but I won't read the whole thing here.
Right.
But I think it's incredible, and I'll put in the last couple lines because I think it's really good.
Okay.
Let's see. It seems your mother believed being strict with you would make you stronger, but she applies the same rule to herself. So even today, she's probably fighting back her tears as she dutifully makes the tea. The same way that you hid your tears from me earlier, Yuzuru. So yeah, that's that. And Yuzuru scraps the note and says that she's not like her mom at all and just kind of storms off. But her mom kind of follows her as she's exiting and goes out into the courtyard where it's just her and Shoya alone for a minute. Shoya gives her the note, and as he's walking away, she says, Shoya, thank you for being friends with Yuzuru, which I thought was a great moment because throughout the entire story up to this point, we've gotten, we've seen Shoko's mom as being very cold towards Shoya for obvious reasons. But this moment was just so, such a, I guess, just moment of whoa, this is this is some crazy character stuff here. But final thing of note, I guess, is that there's a scene that shows why Shoko's dad left, and
Okay.
it's like a flashback kind of scene, so we actually see them. But he basically left because he didn't want to raise a deaf child.
Oof.
Yeah, so it's a pretty messed up scene because Shoko's sitting right there, and obviously she can't hear any of it, so she's very confused. So it's it's pretty horrible. It's pretty like, oh no.
Yeah.
So okay, here is a really good scene. So volume 5 starts basically where the last one ended. Like kind of in the middle of the story. So I guess to start this off, I'll mention this volume gives a lot more character development to Satoshi, the basic kind of guy.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Like a lot more, to the point where he's like an actual character now. Isn't that something? But so the gang plans that, you know, they plan some more of Nagatsuka's movie, and they decide, hey, we should shoot some of our scenes in an elementary school. Mm-hmm. And so they're like, hey, Shoya Shoko, why don't you guys go to the elementary school around here and, you know, ask for permission, which is the same elementary school that Shoya and Shoko bullied, or that Shoya bullied Shoko in.
Of course.
So they decide to bring Satoshi along to go there, and Satoshi reveals, you know, like, he wants to be a teacher so that he can teach his old classmates' kids and be nice to them, unlike his classmates, because they're apparently mean to him. Satoshi also saves a kid from being bullied, because we basically find out that Satoshi was being bullied back in the day for his big eyebrows, which you know, as a bullying reason doesn't, I guess, make a whole lot of sense, but you know, kids are kids.
I mean, bullying in general never really makes sense.
I guess that's true. Yeah, bullying never really makes sense anyway. But the most like important part of the scene is that Shoya and Shoko, or I guess it's basically like Shoko is somewhere off in another part of the school, but Shoya and Satoshi run into Shoya and Shoko's old homeroom teacher. And, you know, decide to ask him for permission to use the place. And he's like, yeah, all right, Shoya, you seem like you've grown up pretty all right. And he's like, you know, it's probably thanks to all the stuff you went through in middle school. And he also says that he felt bad for the kids in that class because they were being drawn, as he puts it, the short straw, aka getting Shoko as a classmate. He ends up calling her pitiful as well. Which, upon hearing this, Satoshi stops drinking a water bottle that he had and just spills it all over the teacher. And basically the guy's like, all right, you can't film here anymore, and kicks them all out. But as soon as they're about to leave, Shoko comes in the room, and Shoya basically, you know, signs to her like, hey, you know, we can't use the place, so let's just go. And the teacher just kind of stands there for a second and goes, see, you did grow into a fine young man after all. And then they all just leave. It is such a good scene. Mm-hmm. And I understand completely why all of the movie stuff was cut out of the movie, because that would have just been way too long. It would have added like another 20 minutes to the movie. Easy.
It kind of feels like a filler thing.
It's kind of filler, but it does end up giving some really good moments.
Yeah.
So I understand why it was cut as a story section itself, but it definitely like it gives some moments where it's like, yeah, you know what? I'm glad I read the manga now that I know this. But yeah, they also do some filming for the short film right before, you know, the bridge scene where Shoya, you know, blows up at everybody after the girl Kawai kind of you know, exposes that he used to bully Shoko, which can I just say, if you hated Naoka as a character, which, you know, she was the character who didn't like Shoko throughout the movie, I'm sure you could sure you surmise that.
I did not like her as a character, yes.
Yeah. So if you didn't like her, you definitely won't like Kawai as a character in the manga, because...
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really like her that much in the film.
Yeah,
so.
She's not very good is the thing, because, like, And
She seems kind of a bit annoying.
yeah, the movie kind of makes this point as well, is that she's not so different from Naoka. Because, like, even though she likes to act nice, she just kind of goes along with everybody and, like, what's cool at the moment. And even... So, I'll get into this much later, but in the 6th volume, throughout the last half, there is a chapter dedicated to every single member of the friend group. Like, from their perspective and what they think of, like, everything.
Yeah.
But hers... Like, for everyone else, we kind of get scenes of, like, oh, that's pretty cool. Or, like, I can kind of sympathize with that. Even Naoka. But for hers, it's all about her own self-image. And you're kind of like, what is this bitch talking about? Like, I don't like her very much. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, she's kind of fake. And while I came out of the manga... Or while I came out of the movie not liking neither her or Naoka, I came out of the manga appreciating what Naoka does for the story. But I came out of the manga also not liking Kawaii as a character. So that didn't change. But I like what she's there for, just to be kind of a parallel to Naoka. But here's another character moment for Satoshi, where right before, because see, here's a thing. I'm surprised that this wasn't included in the movie, because just before the bridge scene, we get the scene between Satoshi and Shoya, where Satoshi kind of says, like, oh yeah, did you hear that Shoko was bullied back in elementary school? I kind of want to, or he says, like, if I ever found that guy, I would probably punch his lights out or something. And then, in the manga, during the bridge scene where everybody walks off, except for Yuzuru, Shoko, and Shoya, the last one left is Satoshi. And Shoya, looks up at him and goes, "If you wanted to punch Shoko's old bully, I'm right here." And Satoshi obliges and just lays him out. Like, just gives him a big punch to the face and lays him out. Yuzuru, this is the coldest line in the entire manga. Yuzuru, like, butts in after, like, while Shoko's, like, on the ground with Shoya, and says, like, who do you think you are? Satoshi just replies, just a passerby doing my part. Oh, I was like, oh my god. That is
very cold.
It's cold, but it's like, it's a moment of, like, I don't... It's not that he's in the wrong, but, like, this whole scene is, like, brutal. It's much more, like, visceral, too. Like, they're all screaming at each other. So it's a really good, I guess, just emotional moment for the story. But moving into Volume 6, we end Volume 5 at the famous... infamous fireworks scene where, Shoko attempts to kill herself. And we basically begin Volume 6 where Shoya is in the hospital and he's not waking up at the moment, and Shoko decides to try and patch up all the friendships and everything. But there's also something I wanted to mention about all the manga covers, which I'll show it visually right now since I have them with me. But every manga cover follows the same, like, basic structure of, on the front you see, Shoko and Shoya standing together. But on the Volume 6 cover, you just have Shoko standing there by herself. And it is so brutal. After seeing what happened to Shoko, after coming right off of 5, when you see just Shoko or Shoya land in the water and then nothing else, and then you just get that cover and it's like, oh no! Like, if Silent Voice movie never came out and I just read the manga by itself, that would break me, because that is so sad. But all right, yeah. For my Volume 6 notes, I basically just said, like, Naoka reads out the letter that Shoko wrote her, which, just kind of shows more of Shoko's outlook on Naoka as a person, which, she's obviously very apologetic, more than she needs to be. But, then Naoka, starts to beat up Shoko. Then she's interrupted by Shoko's mom. And the fight, because, in the movie, the fight is, them kind of, pulling at each other and kind of slapping each other. No. In the manga, they go at it.
Really?
Yeah, Naoka pushes her into a car, and they just start punching each other. It is so much. And then, Shoya's mom comes in and is like, whoa, we gotta stop. And I was reading it, I was like, oh my god. Because I guess, what would you do if, you just saw your daughter getting beaten up by some girl?
Yeah.
Just come in. I was like, whoa. But yeah, I mentioned earlier that we get individual chapters of all the characters and stuff, and it's usually stuff that we already kind of knew. We see that, Satoshi wants to be a teacher, and we see his past bullying more in depth. We see Miyoko wanting to be a clothes designer. We see just kind of their own lives, and we see Naoka in the hospital room with Shoya, as she basically says I have feelings for you, but you hate me, and for good reasons. But that's pretty much it for volume 6. It ends with Shoya. It ends with a really good scene, actually, where Shoya has this dream where Shoko was just, normal. She could hear and she could speak clearly. And it shows, it shows, his life where he would be able to hear her voice, where the bullying never happened. And I thought it was a really interesting scene. And I remember someone on Reddit, on the Silent Voice Reddit, which is which goes by the Japanese name Koe no Katachi. So you see them just kind of, or someone on there was I was a little bit disappointed that this scene was cut out of the movie, and it kind of is, because I noticed on rewatching that Shoya does kind of have a little dream before he wakes up, but it's much more abstract. I don't quite remember what's said with text on the screen, but I remember that he says something like hearing your voice or something, and it kind of is the same as the dream he has where he could hear Shoko, which I thought that was pretty neat. But now finally moving on to volume 7, the final volume, which is actually really different for some moments. Okay. So volume 7, after Shoya wakes up, he goes to the bridge and has that scene with Shoko where he asks her if he can help him learn how to live. Then they're discovered by both of their moms and Yuzuru. Shoya gets taken back to the hospital, then is discharged in time for the festival. We also get a pretty cute scene where both of the moms get drunk together. And I thought it was fun. Just after everything, just seeing those two having a good time, I was like, you know what?
Right.
That's fun. But yeah, as soon as they get to the festival, we see a screening of Nagatsuka's movie, which it would take a lot of time to explain. It would take a lot of time, plus it's kind of unnecessary at the moment to describe what his movie is verbatim, but I'm sure someone typed that out somewhere. So yeah, after the movie ends, they basically decide to go back to the school festival, and it plays out pretty much exactly how it did in the movie. And then we get the scene where he starts looking people in the face again, and that's where the movie ends. However, the manga continues for
I think I've seen
for half a volume. So This is what happens during that period of time, broken down into pretty basic details. We get a scene where they screen the film at the short film festival where it gets torn apart, like by a critic, inspiring Nagatsuka to get better at filmmaking. And finally, we get scenes that show where everybody goes with their lives in the future. Satoshi and Kawaii decide to go to the same university. Kawaii ends up confessing that she likes Satoshi, and it's implied that they, kind of end up together. Satoshi also states that he might want to get into acting after starring in Nagatsuka's movie. Mm-hmm. Miyoko and Naoka get into fashion together and end up going to university together for that. Nagatsuka decides to go to film school, and finally, Shoya and Shoko moved to Tokyo together to become hairdressers. The final panel is them holding hands as they walk into the graduation ceremony, which I thought was very sweet. But that is the Silent Voice manga. Every notable difference between that and the movie.
Nice.
Now, all that being said, a lot of people are of the opinion that the manga handles things like so much better. And while I will agree that there's a lot more depth to certain characters in the manga, I think the movie did a great job with what it had. I think, really, the stuff I'm listing there is, out of the 1,200 pages or so of Silent Voice, really only, I would say probably an odd, 100 or so are what's contained right there. Maybe 100, 200. So really, they didn't cut out too much. It's pretty one-to-one, actually.
Right.
But I think they did a great job adapting it, and I think the emotions come through so much more in the movie version. That being said, though, I did enjoy my time reading the Silent Voice manga. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about Silent Voice.
Nice. Yeah, same thing for me.
I loved the movie a lot, and I'm really glad we finally got to talk about it. So,
same.
Please, if you've gotten this far, I don't know how you have, go watch the movie. What do you, if you haven't seen it, go watch the movie. What are you doing?
If you haven't seen it already,
yeah.
Why?
Yeah, why are you
why have you been watching us talking about this film for over an hour?
Yeah, we've done nothing but talk about the movie and maybe a couple other tangents here and there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's Silent Voice.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep. Now what?
Didn't we have something we wanted to discuss at the end of Memories of Murder? I can't quite remember.
Last episode, I said that I wanted to talk about Western TV shows.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess we could go. We could start talking about that. So, well, I guess the first question to ask would be what's your favorite TV show?
Is it cool if you give me a sec with that? Could you go with your favorites? Because I still gotta think.
No problem. Yeah. Well, so I kind of have two shows that are fighting for the first place. The first show is How I Met Your Mother.
I've seen some of that, and it's pretty fun.
Yeah. It's a sitcom that's very similar in a lot of ways to Friends, which is why some people don't like it. They say that it's basically a copy of Friends, which I disagree with. But
oh yeah,
I have to say that it's very similar. It's similar in its format, but basically it tells the story of Ted Mosby, who is a father who tells to his children in the year 2030 how he met their mother, and he tells the story in 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
Nine seasons, and it's a show that's mostly known for the character of Barney Stinson, played by Neil Patrick Harris,
right?
who became a meme with like, he was a meme very early on the internet with the like true story with the glass of wine. That's
Oh
a
my
very
god,
old
that's
meme.
right. I forgot about that
Yeah.
meme. Wow.
But also a bunch of quotes such as "It's going to be legend. Wait for it, dairy." That's a pretty famous quote.
Mhm.
That kind of stuff. But it's a show that I really like for a few reasons. First of all, obviously, as any sitcom, as any good sitcom, it's really funny, and I know that a lot of people aren't that into sitcoms because they don't like the laughs.
Right.
But I will say that How and Your Mother is really good at, how much there is, because unlike a lot of famous sitcoms, How I Met Your Mother is not shot in front of a live audience. The laughs are added during the in post production.
Yeah.
Which means that they have a lot of control, and they don't have what I hate about sitcoms, which is like when anything happens, like you're gonna have the audience going like, "Oh," and I hate that.
Yeah,
That's so annoying.
I'm not a fan of
So
that
you don't
either.
have. Yeah, so when the show gets serious, which honestly for a comedy show, it gets serious a lot. But when it gets serious, the audience shuts the fuck up.
That's good. That's good.
So and yeah, that's the other thing that I like about the show is that it's really good at, stopping the comedy and going into something that's more dramatic. And there's a lot of very sad moments in the show that are, in my opinion, amazing, or sometimes not necessarily sad, but just serious.
Mhm.
Like, obviously I'm not gonna spoil it, but there's this big thing of Barney who, he grew up without a father, and then there's a few episodes of him meeting his father, and obviously that's a pretty serious thing, and I think they handled that really well.
Mhm.
And the other show that I'm way into is actually a show that I mentioned last episode, which is Doctor Who.
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah, which actually, funny enough, is a show that I had seen the first 2 seasons like a few years ago. But at the beginning of this year with my brother, we watched the rest of the show, and it's a really, really good show. First of all, for anyone who's a fan of sci-fi, like, it's a very good kind of typical sci-fi show. But also the fact that they, if you don't know what Doctor Who is, it's a very old British sci-fi show that's been going on for over 50, almost 60 years, and it tells the story of the Doctor, who is this alien from another planet who travels the universe with what's called the TARDIS, which is both a spaceship and a time machine, and which the fact that it's both of these things allows the writer a lot of creativity, because you can have one episode that's about ancient Rome, and you have another episode that's in another futuristic planet with a bunch of aliens and that kind of stuff. And yeah, no, it's just a really very just like How I Met Your Mother. It's a show that's really good at handling both comedy and drama,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something that I really like about it.
So I did manage to remember a few of my favorites. So I would probably say, my favorite one of all time is Futurama.
Really?
Have you ever watched Futurama at all?
I've seen a few episodes, not a lot.
I think it is like one of the most consistently hilarious animated shows, and like I love The Simpsons too, but like
Yeah.
Futurama will always be like a classic to me, because like it was, oddly enough, I actually watched it for the first time when I was very young, because my dad and I would watch it whenever I was over at his house. So that was I remember that being a really good time. And I think actually one of my earliest memories is we were watching Futurama on like an old CRTV set, and
Yeah.
I remember there was a big storm outside, and I remember I heard a big like thunder sound, and then the TV just shut off, and then power came back on, and we just kept watching. But yeah, that was Futurama is one of my favorites, and I'm rewatching it currently. Like every so often I'll pop in like a few episodes, and I love it a lot. Yeah, it's just a really really funny show. My other favorites are like I love Seinfeld. I really like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
And two other shows that I love to death are Arrested Development and Community. That's like my other favorite. Right. Have you ever seen Community or Arrested Development?
They're both shows that I've seen the first episode and then just didn't continue watching.
That's fair. But, like, I don't know. I was recently reminded of how much I love Community because, like, I had some friends over at my apartment, and we were just looking for stuff to watch, and one of my friends was like, hey, why don't you put on an episode of Community? I'm like, sure. And then I was sitting there, I'm like, God, this is funny. I was like, I don't remember how funny this was. But I need to watch... I would say, like, if I wanted to ever expand my, expand my horizons in the Western TV world, I need to watch more dramas.
I haven't seen a lot of dramas either.
Because, like, I watched the first episode of Ozark on Netflix a while back, and it was really good, and I was like, man, I want to watch more of this, and then I just didn't. And obviously there's Breaking Bad, which everyone is... always loves and always says is like the best, and I really
it's a classic favorite show.
Yeah, it's a modern classic, and I really do want to. I want to watch it eventually, but I don't know when I will. I want to watch. I want to watch Fargo, and
Fargo is. I watched the film before I knew there was a show called Fargo.
Yeah,
and. I think it's kind of funny because I feel like a lot of people love the show without knowing that there's even a film.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the opposite.
That is kind of funny.
And I don't know, because the film's my favorite film from the Coen brothers, and I'm just not sure if I'm that interested in watching the show.
Right.
Because I'm fine with just having the film,
Yeah. I just have a friend of mine who loved the movie, obviously, but he was raving about the show back when we first met. He was like, you gotta watch it, and so I was like, yeah, probably someday. But yeah, I guess that's really all I gotta say for like Western shows that I love a lot.
I remember there was this show that I watched on Netflix that was called The Politician, which is a show I feel like there wasn't that much advertising on it, and I feel like most people haven't really heard that much about it, unlike shows like I don't know, Stranger Things, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
that was a show that I watched because the main character in the show is played by Ben Platt, who's mostly known for being a Broadway actor who was the main character in I don't know if you've heard about that, a musical named Dear Evan Hansen.
Yes, I've heard of it.
Yeah, so he was the main character in that. Dear Evan Hansen, which also is getting a movie adaptation later this year.
I did hear about that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of scared about that. But
yeah,
when I first got into Dear Evan Hansen, I was obsessed with this, with Ben Platt, and especially his voice, because he's an amazing singer, and I was also... At the same time, I discovered his music career and his original song, and I saw that he had a show on Netflix, so I decided to watch it. It's a really weird show, and I'm not quite sure what I think about it. It's, I don't know how to explain it, but it's really it's very 2020 in the way that it's made. I feel like in a few decades, people will see this show as like a product of its time, if it makes sense.
Really? Oh.
And I don't know if that's a good thing. Well, so all right, the first season was pretty good. It's basically about this guy who like wants to be the like the president of his high school,
Yeah.
which is I don't know, like there's the idea of president of high school or whatever is a thing that isn't really that much of a thing here in Canada.
Yeah.
So I kind of look at this as like a weird American thing, like, but I don't know.
It's so funny you mentioned that because like I don't know. Okay, this might just be like my high school experience, but like we had class presidents and stuff like that, but no one ever really cared. Like it didn't really mean anything. Like I remember, we mainly didn't ever care about like the election because because it was always for us it was always the same four girls that would get like president, vice president, secretary, treasurer. It didn't even feel like it was worthy to even like or like worth it to even like try. And I thought it would be I thought one year would be really funny if we got my friend in as president. Because it would just be such a 180 and I knew it would never happen, but I would I thought that was the funniest idea. But it's always like a big thing in like like shows, like it's always like, oh, he was the class president, but like I have never met anybody who cared.
Yeah. But for this show there was a lot of stuff that was kind of weird, such as the main character is an actual sociopath.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like all right, the sociopath will like not really. It's not like they say, "Oh, the guy's a sociopath," and he's weird. They never say that. He's just treated as a normal guy, but he's an actual sociopath though, and it's really, really weird. Because I don't know. Plus, he's like a rich kid who his mom is played by Gwyneth Paltrow, who just. Is Gwyneth Paltrow.
Okay.
Like, I don't know. There's just a lot of weird stuff in the show that I'm just not too certain about. And I don't know. I mean, I don't like Gwyneth Paltrow, but I don't want this to, like, affect my opinion of her acting,
She's not that great of an actor either.
Right, but it's just... she's not horrible.
Not to throw shade at Gwyneth Paltrow, obviously. She's fine. But it's like... Yeah.
It's just, you see her in Iron Man and you're like, oh, she's fine. But then you hear about the Goop thing.
Yeah, Goop is so ridiculous.
Goop is actually crazy. I don't know if Gwyneth Paltrow is like, if she believes that the Goop thing actually works, or if she's just like,
I have no idea,
trying to make money of knife people.
I think she's just a really good businesswoman.
She probably is, honestly.
I think that's probably it. But before it leaves my brain, another Western TV show I completely forgot to mention was Parks and Recreation.
Right.
Because that show's a really brilliant sitcom. A lot of people love The Office. I just never could really get into it.
Same thing for me, yeah. The Office is one of those shows that I've seen the first episode and I really did not care about watching anything else.
I watched like 2 seasons. And I was like at the end of the second season, I watched it with my girlfriend, and at the end of the second season I was like, do you really want to continue? And she's like, no, and I was like, me neither. A lot of people love it though. Yeah. So more power to them seeing something I didn't.
I think it's just not my type of humor.
Yeah.
I think that's all it is.
I find a lot of the concepts pretty funny.
Yeah, sure. But it's like, I don't know, I feel like people talk about this show as like this incredible type of humor that's like you just don't get it, but it's like maybe, but I don't know, I don't see how it's that like incredible. I don't know, people I feel like some people think of The Office as if it was like a revolution.
Yeah, people do kind of live and die by The Office.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a fine show. I just never really enjoyed it too much
Sure,
to where I was like, yeah, I'll watch all of it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but another thing I forgot that I wanted to bring up during this episode, but you kind of reminded me with the character of a sociopath that's not stated as a
Yeah.
sociopath. So
Mm-hmm.
every year around this time, a certain movie has come out for like the last 3 years, and that movie is titled "The Kissing Booth."
Oh.
And
Yeah.
uh, my girlfriend and I decided to have another classic moment where we decided to watch a really awful movie. And we watched. This has been happening for the past 3 years. We watched the first Kissing Booth movie soon after it came out. We watched 2 and 3 right as they came out as well. And 3 just came out this past week.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought by the end of 3, I was having like a brain aneurysm. Because it is so mind-bogglingly bad to the point where like at the end of 3, I thought I was losing my mind because you see this character. The main character is played by Joey King, which, side note, I am sure Joey King is like a really nice person, but I have never seen a movie that she is in that isn't terrible.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, Joey King plays this.
Oh, she's in Slenderman as well.
Yeah, no, it was a really funny moment because when we were watching the first movie, my girlfriend was on IMDb and I'm like, "What's up?" And she's like, I thought I saw something," and I was like, "What?" And she was like, "Hey, so you know that main girl Joey King?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Do you want to know what else she's been in?" I was like, "What?" And she was like, "She was in Slenderman," and I went like I had just a moment of like realization. I was like, "Oh no!" But yeah, it's pretty unbearable because Joey King plays this main girl whose name is Elle, and she in Kissing Booth 3 actively tries to ruin everything in her life. And then it actually kind of gets ruined for a while. Like, she ruins the main relationship she has, and it just stays that way for the rest of the movie. And I was like, whoa! Like, it's still horrible, but I'm really kind of impressed that they had the balls to not continue their relationship. But yeah, it's a series of Netflix movies. It's a trilogy, and it's probably the worst trilogy I've ever seen.
Worse than the Fred trilogy?
Yes. Because,
wow.
Because, okay, imagine this, right? Imagine a trilogy of movies where one of them, the first one, is like a 2 out of 10, but at least you could, like, stomach it to some points. But imagine a trilogy where that exists, and then the next 2 movies are as bad as Fred 3 Camp Fred. I'm not kidding. It is so mind-numbingly terrible. But yeah, that was something that we watched this past. Actually, last night is when we watched Kissing Booth 3.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The actress, she really reminds me of an actor. I can't remember his name, but he's the guy. He plays in the same kind of movies that are like really not great teenager comedies. And
I think I know what you're talking about.
It's Noah Centineo.
Oh my God! Yeah.
Yeah. Which I don't know if you know the YouTuber Carson Ronquist.
Yes, I do.
He made a video where he talked about every single one of his films.
Oh, really?
And they're all bad. It's also like a lot of those are like they're not just bad, they're problematic, like in terms of moral and all this. Like I think there was a film that almost like made him a bully and made him as the good guy. I might be wrong on that, so don't take this too seriously, but from what I remember, that was it. So it's really funny to compare that to a silent voice. But
he was He's in one movie I watched like last year.
Yeah.
I watched a Disney Channel original movie called How to Build a Better Boy with my girlfriend.
Oh
And
boy.
he plays I don't quite remember, but I feel like he plays like one of the I'm pretty sure he plays like a just kind of like one of the bullies in that movie too, because he does kind of look like a kind of a jock kind of guy.
Yeah.
But apparently he was in that To All the Boys I've Loved Before trilogy that's also on Netflix that I refuse to watch.
Same.
Because my girlfriend watched the first movie and she was like, it's bad. But she didn't want to show it to me like she wanted to show me Kissing Booth. So I'm like, does that mean that it just gets worse? Because if there's a movie trilogy out there worse than The Kissing Booth, I think I might lose my mind. Yeah, it was. There's like a whole league of those actors that are just in terrible, terrible movies, and honestly, and I was saying this last night too, like more power to them for getting so much like work, because getting work in Hollywood is kind of hard.
Yeah.
But like, props to them for getting so much work, but like also, you're gonna be related to those movies forever now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, yeah.
I was just curious because we were talking about bad trilogies, so I googled worst movie trilogies and just found a list that I like highly disagree with on a lot of stuff.
Oh really? Go ahead. I'm curious.
Yeah, it's like, all right. Well, first there's the Matrix trilogy.
Oh, what?
Which is like,
come on.
Which is like, all right, sure. The maybe you didn't like the second and third film, but like the first one is good.
You can't deny that the first Matrix movie is good.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, like the second and third movie, they're not great, but they're not like terrible.
No, yeah, they're just disappointing. That's all.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's disappointing, sure, but like not bad.
Yeah. Then kind of a similar thing with the Hobbit trilogy.
Oh, come on.
Yeah,
what?
Which is like, yeah, sure. It wasn't as good as the Lord of the Ring trilogy, but it wasn't horrible.
No, I had a decent time with those Hobbit movies. They're not great, but they were fun enough.
Mm-hmm. Then there's the Star Wars prequel trilogy. So it's like, I mean, it doesn't surprise me to see it there.
Listen, I appreciate the Star Wars prequel trilogy, but I get it.
Yeah, well, in general, I just really don't care that much about Star Wars, but I've seen a few moments of especially Attack of the Clones, like all the parts that are very like the romance part.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my god, fucking kill me, please.
Oh, okay. So I haven't seen any of those movies in like 5 or 6 years. So
yeah,
obviously, or maybe like even like 8. But like, okay, so Attack of the Clone, or okay, so what was the first one? Phantom Menace.
Phantom Menace.
Phantom Menace is not great, but it's like a decent movie. Attack of the Clones is terrible. There's no salvaging that one. But Revenge of the Sith has a pretty decent like third act. Really, the only things that bring that trilogy down are the really dated visuals, some of the really bad storytelling.
Like all the politics and stuff.
Yeah, the romance scene, and of course the politics scene. Like, there's so much politics in there. Honestly, though, I don't know. I would be kind of rivaled to say that, like, if you're talking about bad Star Wars movies, you could lump in Rise of the Skywalker, because I think Rise of the Skywalker is by far the worst one. Like, aside from Attack of the Clones, I think it's just terrible. Like, I don't know if you saw it or heard anything about it, but it is just a testament to bad trilogy planning.
Yeah. But then the next trilogy is The Mighty Ducks, which I haven't seen a single film from.
The Mighty Ducks. That's such a deep cut. I saw The Mighty Ducks like 10 years ago, and I don't remember a thing about it. But that doesn't
Yeah.
seem like it'd be worse trilogy material.
I just know that it exists. Next is, I think, actually the first trilogy of the list that I've seen all the films in it, which is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles trilogy.
That's kind
And
of...
it's like, all right,
That's just
all right,
goofy.
all right. The first one, I'm sorry. The first one's good.
Yeah, it's not
You
bad.
can't deny the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film is a good film. Second one is not as good. It's like, it's too much into like the stupid comedy part, but it's, it's an alright film. The third one, though, the third one's bad.
Yeah, it's bad.
The third one is...
They're just like goofy
Yeah.
kids movies. I don't really see the point in going out and saying like these are bad.
Yeah.
But I do see the point in like stuff like the Michael Bay Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies. Like you can go out and say
that
like,
one's bad.
you're like, yeah, these suck. But like I don't really see the point in ragging on those old movies because they're just they're a novelty. They're just like a really goofy thing from that time in the world.
Yeah. Then there's a trilogy that it really angers me that is there, because I don't even want to call it a trilogy. It's the Addams Family, which you might think, was there a third Addams Family? And it's like, technically, because there's a film that is called Addams Family Reunion that was made in 1998 with, as Gomez Adam, it was Tim Curry.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it was an entirely different cast, an entirely different, team of director, writer, and everything. So I don't even want to count it as part of like an Addams Family trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
And so that. First of all, I don't like that. Second of all, the Addams Family, like the film Addams Family and Addams Family Value are two, in my opinion, amazing comedy films.
I've never seen any of them, so I can't really say.
Yeah, sure. I don't know what it is about them. I just really like the comedy in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's some parts are kind of like almost, I guess, absurd comedy a bit.
Yeah.
But I think it's hilarious. There's also the whole thing of like Gomez and Morticia Addams have the best romance in all of fiction. It's like there aren't any other fictional characters that love each other as much as Gomez and Morticia Addams.
Right.
Next is, I didn't even know that was a trilogy. It's the I Know What You Did trilogy with
Oh,
What You Did
yeah.
Last Summer. I still know what you did last summer, and I'll always know what you did last summer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a
which
trilogy.
is-
I get that.
Next is Big Mama's trilogy,
Oh.
which is, I remember watching those films as a kid, and it's like,
I remember
yeah,
the only time I've ever seen him was I remember I was on vacation, and that was like on TV one afternoon, and my siblings just sat there and we just watched it. And it wasn't even like good or anything, but we just sat there and just watched the whole thing.
yeah. But next is the Delta Force trilogy, which I didn't know about it, but so they're apparently Chuck Norris films.
Yeah, I think I've heard of them.
So I'm guessing they must be at least funny.
I'm assuming they are. I don't know.
Then it's another trilogy that I don't know about. It's the Problem Child trilogy.
Problem Child. I don't even know.
It's Problem Child 2, Problem Child 3, Junior in Love. So I don't know about it, and I don't really care.
Yeah.
There's also the Look Who's Talking trilogy.
Yeah, that's a pretty awful trilogy.
Yeah, I know that it's got like John Travolta.
Yeah.
Then it's Sometimes They Come Back trilogy, which again I don't know about.
I don't know that one at all.
And then finally the number one is the Troll trilogy. With Troll,
Yeah,
Troll
okay.
2, and Troll 3, which is, first of all, I didn't know Troll 3 existed.
I didn't either.
And second of all, I don't know if you knew about that, but Troll 2 isn't actually related in any way to Troll 1.
I feel like I heard about that.
Because in the film, they're not even trolls, they're goblins. But the film is called
What?
Troll 2. I think it was to like because Troll 1 had a minor success.
Oh, to go off any troll clout that might exist.
Right. It's like right now people know about it because of how awful the film is, but
yeah, obviously.
Yeah. Have you seen it?
No, I've never seen it, but the first time I ever heard of it...
It's quite something.
The first time I ever heard of it was when I remember I was getting into the idea of funny bad movies, and I asked my dad, I'm like, what's the worst movie you've ever seen? And he was like, oh, Troll 2 for sure. Because he apparently saw it when it came out in theaters, and I remember he said he was like I left and I hated it. I hated it more than anything I've ever seen.
If you ever watch it, I recommend that you do like a double feature movie night where you watch Troll 2 and then you watch a documentary that is called The Best Worst Film.
Is it about Troll 2?
Yeah, it's a documentary made by the actor who played the main character in the original film.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that one was made, I think, 20 years after Troll 2 was made, and he wanted to make a documentary mostly about the fan base that was created about the film.
That's pretty cool.
And they go to like midnight screenings of the film with cast members, and the really good part about it is you got a few interviews with Claudio Fragasso, who is the director of Troll 2, and he genuinely thinks that he made a really good film.
I love that. That's great. That's fantastic.
It's really funny.
Yeah.
At this point, it's like you gotta almost respect that.
I
feel.
No, I respect that stuff. I respect when. See, that's the thing is I can respect when bad filmmakers like can accept that they've made bad films, or like at least to a point where like they accept the success they get from it. Like obviously,
like Tommy Wiseau.
Yeah, obviously Tommy Wiseau. But I think one of my like up and coming favorite bad movie directors is I don't know if you've ever heard of him, Neil Breen.
I don't think I have.
Oh my god. If you have the time at some point, you should absolutely... Oh.
Hold on. I think I know about it. Yes. I've seen... didn't he make a... wasn't there a scene that kind of became a meme where it was like... someone has a heart attack or something? It's like, I can't believe you committed suicide.
I cannot believe you committed suicide. I cannot believe you committed suicide. But it's such a... He is such an enigma of a man. And... Because, like, okay, so he made, like 4 movies. And then, like, in the beginning of 2020, he released a 5-hour-long documentary about how he makes movies. And, like, I haven't seen any of them all the way through yet. But I want to buy some of his DVDs because I really want to watch it. Because I love the absolute absurdity of what he does. But some of my favorite bad filmmakers, I guess you would say, is Tommy Wiseau, Neil Breen, but I would say not even like bad filmmakers, but I respect them a lot. Is the people over at Wakaliwood, who made like Who Killed Captain Alex, like all those Ugandan action movies. That were made on a budget of like $200. They are doing stuff for the love of film, and I think it's beautiful. I think it is so amazing.
It's just a bunch of friends who have a passion for filmmaking and who just do it.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's like it's kind of heartwarming to like you see all these like big action movies, and then you just go over here to Uganda and they're making this, and it's like, that's incredible.
Have you seen I don't remember from what country it was, but it was from an African country where it was a bunch of like teenagers who made short films, and kind of like those guys made some films with a lot of special effect.
Yeah.
The difference is that they made actually amazing special effects.
Ooh, that's kind of interesting.
Like, and I remember when it came out, it was like I remember Elon Musk made a tweet about it, and I can't remember. I have to find it because it's like genuinely really good.
Oh, so I don't know why I just remembered this, but there's a little bit of movie news that came out in the last week that that really got my hate juices a flowing. So they announced this week that the week that we're recording this, that they are making an American remake of Train to Busan.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yes, which is a South Korean zombie film that got a lot of praise, and I'm just saying, stop it.
Yeah,
I thought we were past this. Like with Parasite coming out and making as big of a splash as it did, I don't know why, but I kind of thought, hey, maybe we're done with the idea that we need to have like American versions of whatever, because it never turns out okay. I can't remember a single time that it has, especially with Spike Lee's Old Boy, which is one of the worst movies I've ever seen, and makes it so that I can't even recommend one of my favorite movies without someone going, oh, isn't that the one where Elizabeth Olsen got naked? I'm like, now we have to live in a world where there's two old boys and one is significantly better than the other one, and now we're gonna have to live in a world where there's two Train to Busans and one of them is going to be so much better, because there's no way in hell that movie is going to be anywhere as good as the original Train to Busan.
I mean, you know what? For that kind of situation, I'm always the optimistic person who's gonna be like, who knows? Maybe it's gonna be good.
I'm just so tired
of it. It's like, but like for example, you probably saw that as well. Netflix released the first pictures from their upcoming Cowboy Bebop live action.
Yeah, we could talk about that in a second because I have some thoughts about that too.
Right, but so
yeah, just the last thing I guess I wanted to mention about the Train to Busan thing. Just how hard is it to read the little words on the screen? Once you can do that, you can watch all these movies that are so good. You don't even have to spend all that money remaking something because it already exists. Just go watch it. I can guarantee you it's better than what we could make. Stop it.
Just to quote,
go make your own movies.
to quote Bong Joon-ho, who made Parasite, once you overcome the 1-inch tall barrier of subtitles, you'll be introduced to so many more amazing films. And all right, I saw some people talking about the trying to defend Hollywood, saying that some people, for some kind of many reason, can't read subtitles.
All right, make an English dub.
Dubs, dubs exist.
Make a
you
dub.
Can dub the film. You don't have to remake it.
Who cares? I have seen. In fact, there are some times where a good dub or a bad dub can completely transform the way you look at a movie. Like the Bruce Lee movies on the Criterion box set come with their original 1970s English dubs, and it's hilarious. It's some of the best. It's some of the best dubbing. Some of the best worst dubbing I've ever seen. So, if that's what you have to do, if you can't read subtitles, then get somebody to make a dub. You can do it for significantly less. I would be insulted if I was like one of those directors. Like if I was Park Chan-wook, who made the original Old Boy, or the director of Train to Busan, whose name is escaping right now, I would feel insulted. I would be like, what the hell? Why do we have to make... Why do we have to dumb down film for people? I really don't think it's that hard to just...
All right.
Yeah.
I have to... This is going to be another, foreign guy judges America moment.
Yeah.
As someone who is from Quebec, which is, we have, in my opinion, a pretty good film industry, but it's significantly smaller than the United States. So seeing America, because just like any other foreign countries, we dub every foreign films.
Mm-hmm.
And so seeing America deciding to not dub the film, but instead remake the entire fucking film is just almost like it's almost funny to me.
It's just it's. I bet it is. I bet it is funny, but this is. I would say this is like the only thing when it comes to like movies that I legitimately get angry over. Like for the rest of my life, I don't think I'll ever change my stance on this. I will rally against them ever trying to do this stuff because it is so stupid and unnecessary, and it never works out. Like, if they ever make an American version of Parasite, I might just lose my shit. That might just be it. That might just be it for me. Because, like, I don't think I could ever, like, respect anybody who would do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, it's such a thing that, like, obviously it's unnecessary to get so angry over because it's not something I can change. But it is something that legitimately angers me as someone who really enjoys foreign movies. But yeah, that's just my outlook on a bit of current events. And speaking of current events, Netflix's Cowboy Bebop live action remake. In all honesty, I don't really see. That's the thing with me and these Netflix live action remakes is that, like, obviously Death Note was a sin against God, but from what I'm seeing of Cowboy Bebop, it looks fine. I'm fine with the casting. I'm even fine with the costume design. Some people were angry about that they kind of they didn't dumb down, but they kind of unsexualized Faye Valentine's suit.
There's always those people.
Yeah, which I don't really care.
It's the same. Yeah. You know what? They're the same people that got angry at the last Tomb Raider film because they said that Lara Croft's boobs were too small. Which is like, get a life, dude. Come on.
It's just, it doesn't matter. Like, at the end of the day, I'm not really going to care. They still so that's the thing that this has over the Death Note movie, is that they look like the characters at least.
Yep.
So I'm fine with it. The only thing I am almost confident that they won't be able to do is capture the same feeling that Cowboy Bebop does. There's no way in hell that they're gonna do it. Like, there's no way that they can make it the same way, or like have the same kind of impact that the regular Cowboy Bebop does. That's where my stance on remakes are. Like, I understand that remakes are gonna happen. Or like just remakes of things that have already existed, I guess. Not even just like foreign stuff.
Yeah, they've always been a thing.
Yeah, like remakes are going to happen, but I just it matters on how necessary they are.
I mean, if you look at, for example, Scarface.
Yeah.
Scarface was a remake of a film from the 1930s, but I feel like there was also another Scarface at some point. I might be wrong about that, but there are films that are like, a remake of a remake.
Right. Yeah. No. So obviously there can be good remakes, and like if you feel like you have an interesting outlook on how the story might go otherwise, then sure. But see, that's the thing, is that for stories that are already good, I don't really think it's necessary. Like, obviously with those foreign movies, but absolutely with some of the anime remakes that have come out. Like, obviously there's Death Note, the Avatar movie, there's, now there's Cowboy Bebop, and I guess, I don't know, the main thing that I'm thinking is I think it'll just this is my prediction right now, I'm thinking it's going to end up like the American Ghost in the Shell movie. With Scarlett Johansson, and I think it's just going to be a bland cyberpunk action story. Unless they're able to pull it off pretty well, which...
Who knows?
It's possible. It is possible. You want to know what else? Okay, this is actually kind of bothering me about this new rollout of teaser images. Where's Ed? Where is she? She's not there. So,
well, I mean, they're just the first images.
Well, yeah, but like, she's she's a main character. She's in most of the promotional material for the original Cowboy Bebop, even though she shows up like a few episodes in. So
Yeah.
it's a little bit concerning that Ed hasn't shown up yet. I'm sure eventually we'll get whatever like appearance of Ed there will be, whatever. But
Sure.
that was just one thing where I was like, just show her. We already know she exists. There's no mystery for us.
Yeah. Well, just to end this kind of like remake tangent.
Yeah.
I'm not really that scared about Cowboy Bebop and Train to Busan because, like, you know, I haven't seen I haven't seen all of Cowboy Bebop and I haven't watched Train to Busan yet.
Yeah.
But there's one that's currently being made, which, as a fan of the original show, it kind of scares me, which is the new Netflix live-action Avatar TV show.
Oh, yeah, that is kind of scary.
It's like,
yeah.
you've got... Well, first of all, you know, just like anything else, I try to be optimistic, but the moment where they announced that the original creators stopped being part of the creation,
that doesn't bode well. Yeah,
and
I don't know. See that I am firmly in the camp that I don't think it'll be bad. I don't think any of these remakes will inherently be bad just based on the fact that they exist. I'm just saying that not a good track record, and it's not a thing that we need to do anymore.
Yeah.
We've evolved past the need for our own solitary country experiences. Branch out. Watch something from another country. Don't just watch American movies. If you really care about like good movies and you want to watch good movies and you don't you don't think there's any good stuff to watch on, American cinema, go watch something foreign. I thought for a long time that I wouldn't enjoy foreign movies. I was wrong when I decided to branch out. So just do it.
Well, I feel like that's an interesting thing to talk about. What if you were to recommend a foreign film to someone who's never seen one? What would you? What film would you say?
Oh, it's Parasite, 100%. Because
fair enough.
That was the first foreign movie I showed my girlfriend, and she adored it. Like it was such a good reaction because I think Parasite is probably like it's definitely one of the most like, I don't know, cinematically satisfying movies ever made. Like there's not a single moment of Parasite that I think I'm like, you know what, this I'm a little bored. It's just a great ride all the way through. But I guess some other foreign movies that I really would recommend to a lot of people is I'm trying to like Jackie Chan's Police Story.
Yeah, absolutely. There's anything anime.
Yeah, like Silent Voice. Obviously, we just spent like an hour ago talking about it.
Yeah, and maybe some other South Korean movies like Old Boy and Train to Busan.
Sure. Oh my god, if you like movies, like I'm sure if you've watched this far in the podcast, you would at least like movies a little bit. If you do, go watch Old Boy because it is one of the best films of the 2000s. I'm just saying.
If you like, I'd say to someone who has never seen foreign films, if that person likes romance, I might recommend Wong Kar-wai.
Ooh, yeah. Just watch. Yeah, I would say just like dip your toes in the water with Chungking Express. That's like
another film. No. If you haven't finished, go on.
No, that's pretty much it. That's like
right.
I think Chungking Express is like the best like starter Wong Kar-wai.
Yeah, same. There's a French film that I watched earlier this year that I think could, a lot of people could like since it talks about pretty relevant topics and everything. It's a film that is called La Haine.
Mm-hmm.
It's a film that is about three guys who live in like a poor place near Paris, and it's a film that it's not really the plot of the film, but it's more what they do in the film. It's how can I explain? It's like it's just them living their life in a place that's got a lot of crime, a lot of poverty, and that kind of stuff. And it's in a way, I don't know why, it's a film that I kind of compared to the 400 Blows, which I don't know if you've seen.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, well, in terms of comparison of the story and everything, I feel like this film is the 400 Blows if it was for with young adults instead of a kid.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, I think it's a pretty good film. I think the only film from the Criterion Collection that I've recommended to my to my brothers, and they liked it, so that says something.
Yeah. But yeah, I think foreign films are really important, and I think every time we make one of these Americanized versions of it, we slip a little further into, I guess, isolating our culture from other influences. So that's just my opinion. Maybe the Train to Busan remake will be really good. I don't know, but
to end this, I'd say that I feel, and that's a perspective from a foreign guy, I feel like the United States has an issue of they want to not necessarily impose, but they want to give their culture to every other country in the world, but they don't want the other countries to give their culture.
Yeah, it's a very xenophobic environment for sure. And I personally would like to say that I would not be the same person I am if it wasn't for foreign media. So just try it. That's all I'm saying. Don't judge it just by saying, oh, it's foreign, I probably won't like it. Just try it. But yeah, that's I guess just to close that out, that's my thoughts on the whole thing. So how about we get into choosing next week's movie?
Absolutely. So hold on, let me just pull up the randomizer and my list. Okay. All right, it's loading. Okay.
All right.
Next week's episode is going to be about a film that I've actually talked about a lot on the podcast already, and I'm very excited to talk about it. It is about Harold and Maude.
Oh, finally! Harold and Maude.
After all the time we've talked about it.
Oh man, that's awesome! Actually, I'm really excited.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about this film so much already on the podcast, so it's finally getting an episode.
I'm very excited.
Yeah. So for those who haven't seen our first episode, like our introduction episode, we gave our top 10 favorite movies, and that one I think was my 6th favorite film. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, all right.
Awesome.
So I guess that kind of rolls out the episode. If there was anything else you want to talk about?
No.
All right. I think that means we are done for today. Thank you all for listening to this episode of Movie Dudes. I guess I would like to say, I love Silent Voice. If I didn't already say that enough, it's a fantastic movie. If you've watched this episode and haven't watched the movie, please go watch it, because honestly, it's probably my favorite movie we've discussed so far. So, but yeah, have a good day, night, or whatever you are doing, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.